sun just breaking through. Radio's playing loud, the show's for me and you. Learn how to book your loads and make that money flow. Keep the shiny side up wherever we go. Set your own schedule, master of the road. Hauling freedom's cargo, lightening up your load. Tips and tricks for truckers, yeah, we're helping you. From dawn till dusk, we'll see it through. Staying driven hard in it every mile. Hunting gears and wearing a smile. From hustling 60 truckers, yeah, we're helping you. From dawn till dusk, we'll see it through. Staying driven hard in every mile. Hunting gears and wearing a smile. From hustling city streets to the country lane. Driven trucking, we ease the strain. Brother, sister, keep your eyes on that line. From sunrise to moonshine. Owner operators, this show's for you. Tune in, get tips, and roll on through. From diesel fumes to mountain views, we'll guide your way. Hauling grit and glory every single day. On the rubber, feel the freedom in every bend. Driven trucking, your best highway friends. Staying driven hard in it every mile. Hunting gears and wearing a smile. From hustling 60 truckers, yeah, we're helping you. From dawn till dusk, we'll see it through. Staying driven hard in every mile. Hunting gears and wearing a smile. From hustling city streets to the country lane. Driven trucking, we ease the strain. Yeah, the strain. Stay driven.
Good morning. It's Freaky Friday. Hope you guys are having a great day. You can actually see me today. Normally it's overcast, or at least it's been overcast all week, and it's kind of nasty, and the sun, or the light, for this has not been the greatest. I mean, not like you care, right? You don't really care about my face, you care about the content, but just as somewhat of a perfectionist, it bugs me just a little bit. So hey, hi, you can see me today. Hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys have a load already booked for the weekend, but if not, hey, let me help you out. Let's start off. I'm gonna start off. How many we got here? It should be a little bit light today because it is Friday. So that's okay. No big deal. Good morning, BD. How you doing? Hey, Sevenfold. You crack me up, man. Every day you come in and say something like that. I wonder, like, are you a bot or are you real? Can you answer that question for me? Just say, I am real. He says voluntary compliance is encouraged by cops regarding officer safety concerns. I mean, sure, yeah, it's certainly a safety, or a safety concern. That job, I believe it's one of those jobs every year that falls in the top 10 as far as the most dangerous jobs. So does truck driving, actually. Not every year, but I think the majority of years. And I think it's, if I remember right, I don't know, could be talking on my butt here, but I think truck driving has been like top 3 maybe before. I don't remember. Anyway, it's been enough time. Go ahead. I'm going to ask you to hit that like button if you could. I appreciate it. I know. I have to ask, right? But in return, I'm going to give you a dad joke. And hey, we're going to watch it. We're going to discover this dad joke together. There's yesterday's. Here we go. Why do vampires brush their teeth? To prevent bat breath. Worth a chuckle anyway. You know what's amazing is that there's no telling how many decades they've probably been putting these out. Maybe 2. But anyway, long time, right? How do they keep coming up with more dad jokes? How is that possible? Just more bad jokes after bad jokes. I guess it's infinite, right? I guess the possibilities are infinite. I mean, I don't know. It was worth a chuckle. If you're watching today, I'm serious about this. Today I'm going to get through this with the utmost quickness. Friday is probably the least important day as far as watching that load board. If you do this every day and you watch it all week long, you likely already have your weekend load booked. Friday load is, you don't really want to put it off because you want to make sure that you get the load that's going to set you up for the next week, right? Most important load's always the next load, um, from a business perspective, right? So, yeah, today's always going to be a little light. So, that being said, I am going to fly through today. Okay. If you want to see some lanes, that's fine. Drop a comment in the chat. Give me a starting destination and an ending destination, and what trailer type, and I'll be happy to look up that lane for you on what the average of the last 15 days that lane has been, and that will be using a tool from DAT. They record all of their loads, excellent load board, and yeah, that tool is built in. So it's really nice feature. Yeah. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna get this started. And after my sip of coffee here, the reason I'm flying through today is because I need it for timing, right? So I have to have an understanding of how long these videos are actually going to be, what my editing would look like, and all of that. I'm sore, guys. I'm sore. I started working out this week, and whoo. But I will say this on a side note before we get started. So my mind was just blown last night, and the reason being is because I've been on off and on, kind of working out all my life. I grew up as an athlete. If you've been around the channel for a while, you know that. So I mean, I've worked out, all of my younger life essentially, and then off and on in my adult life. I was in incredible shape in college, and but I had a poor diet. I mean, it was mostly liquid based, right? But regardless, I've never been. I've always had a sweet tooth. I've never ate well. Just lucky with the genetics, right? So, but anyway, so last night, or what I've noticed this week, and my wife, she started working out this week as well, and kind of same with her, right? She's been on and off for a long time working out. Well, we noticed that our recovery, or let me back up. If you've ever worked out like after a long extended break and you went a little bit too hard in the gym for like the next probably 2 to 4 days, your muscles are absolutely wrecked. And if you really overdo it, like let's say you overdid biceps, right? You can't extend your arm out all the way. Like it'll get locked because it hurts so bad because those muscles are so tight. Well, what that is lactic acid buildup. So now to the mind blown part. I was wondering if diet had something to do with it. Kind of had a hunch that we've been recovering way faster, and just on a hunch. Uh, well, my wife last night, she asked if what is lactic acid. I said I don't know. I don't really like I don't know the true definition. I kind of know what it is or how it gets there. So we looked it up, and lactic acid comes from eating carbs. Comes from eating sugars and carbs. And it was just not a surprise. Like, I mean, actually, I mean, my mind was blown, but that's why I've been recovering so much faster. So it begs the question: are carbs and sugar bad for us? I don't know. Just food for thought. But anyway, that was like a really exciting discovery that I had last night, and yeah, just thought I'd share it. So I'm sore, but I'm not. But I'm nothing like if I had started over in years past. Anyway, you guys, thanks for bearing through the story. Let's go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and dive into this and get to the good stuff. And keep in mind, I'm gonna be flying through this today. So without further ado, let's do it. So starting off today, we're going to look at just a general overview of the weather. As you can see, if you can see the screen, you can see that the Northwest. So it had that storm that was rolling in, and it is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. That, or it might be moving north. I don't know, but it's basically just in Montana. It is still some pretty heavy rain for the majority of that storm, and then you've got some mix, so some snow, ice, snow, rain, ice mix in that very southern part of Montana, and now stretching over into Wyoming. So if you're in that area up there, be careful. You got some rain in the Dakotas. It's not necessarily showing anything bad. And then the storms that came in from the Gulf are now covering the majority of basically the southern half of the eastern part of the United States. So still lots of rain over there, very dark green, and so pretty heavy. So watch out for some flooding. Be on the lookout if you're in those two areas. What's going on with the weather. I highly encourage you to look it up. This is just very general, but yeah. So nothing severe though. Nothing showing up severe, which is good. But keep an eye on that. And then looking forward to basically tomorrow, this storm in the southeast starts to kind of dissipate. The one up in the northwest certainly dissipates with some light rain across the northern part of the United States. And then you've got another storm rolling through in the northwest. And actually building up, looks like over the weekend in the southeast. It looks like it's rebuilding down there. So wild. Anyway, so that's your weather forecast or your weather update. Oops. I didn't change this back to my original screen. So moving right along, getting into this is where I like to start with the trucking market update. I like to start with the national load counts. And what this is loads in versus loads out. And this is just a general overview of the entirety of the state. So a good example of this, or let me back up. Don't take this for gold. What this does is this allows us to have a better understanding when we go look at the heat map and actually zoom in and look at different markets where the freight actually lies. Now, a good example of this is California. So you've got 1,635 loads in, but you've got 2,477 loads out. And, it's not going to pertain to the entirety of California, right? It's going to be almost certainly it's going to be the southern part of California and then possibly like San Francisco area, maybe Sacramento area, but that's been a little light lately. So don't just look at this and make a decision off where to go and just go to that particular state, because in a minute, we're going to break it down by markets. This is the best place to start. So starting off, Alabama, 437 loads in, 139 loads out. That's absolutely horrendous, even for Alabama. Avoid Alabama if possible. Arkansas, 279 loads in, 191 loads out. It's below that 50% mark by far. Arkansas was decent earlier in the week, but they have definitely tapered off and fallen off. So not going to have a lot of negotiating power there in Arkansas. Arizona actually up on freight, which is interesting. 472 loads in, though, to 305 out. So your load to truck ratio is still very poor, but there is a little bit more freight there. So you're going to notice that kind of the general theme of today, freight has kind of picked up a little bit, which is great, right? Moving on, California, as I mentioned earlier, really good shape for California, or at least better than what it has been. You've got some negotiating power out there, right? How do I know that? There's 1,635 loads in. There's 2,477 loads out. Sure, there's some guys that live there and didn't necessarily take a load in, so it's not going to be, it's not going to be that exact ratio, but the ratio is still going to be solid. So you have a little bit of negotiating power there. Colorado, 296 loads in to 203 out. Not bad for Colorado, but the Colorado is, I've heard of more guys getting stuck in Colorado than not. So Connecticut, not bad, about that 50% mark, 79 loads in to 77 loads out. So not bad. Delaware, 38 loads in, 28 loads out, below average. I think they were a little bit better than that, if I recall. I mean, it's not like it's a bunch of freight there anyway, right? Florida, 961 loads in to 372 loads out. So absolutely horrendous, but the loads in has gone way down. Regardless, it's still a terrible state. Don't go there unless you live there, right? And I don't mean that I just mean for freight. I don't mean by it's a lovely state. I love going there. Georgia, 1,156 loads in to 557 loads out. Terrible, just absolutely horrible. Yeah. What's wrong with you, Georgia? Fix it. Iowa, 310 loads in, 192 out. That's way below par for Iowa, especially where they've been at the past few weeks. Iowa has been in really good shape, but that is no longer the case there. So If you were running that honey hole, you may want to find a different one because it looks like it may have dried up. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it next week and we'll figure that out. Idaho, 89 loads in, 138 out. Northwest has really been picking up this week. I've noticed that. So that's a good thing, right? For all you Northwesterners up there. Illinois, 837 loads in to 896 loads out. Now that I said freight was picking up, but that's terrible for Illinois. Horrendous. And even though it's right there at that 50% mark, I just wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go there because yeah, rough shape. There, a lot of people live there, right? So not a great spot for freight. Hasn't been past few weeks, which is crazy. Indiana, kind of the king of the last few weeks, slipping a little bit, right? It's still above the 50% mark at 598 loads in to 683 out, but has definitely fallen off. Still, okay shape. Not a ton of loads headed that way, as opposed to what's coming out, but not bad. Kansas, 227 loads in, 154 out. That slipped a little bit. Kentucky, 409 in to 296 out. That's also slipped as well. Louisiana, 285 loads in to 268 out. Believe it or not, that's actually up, surprisingly. Yeah, Louisiana's it's been really hit or miss lately. It's good to see it around that 50% mark, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily in great shape. It's just not in the worst shape, right? Massachusetts, 229 loads in, 127 out. That's poor, but on about par for Massachusetts, really. Maryland, 209 loads in to 241 out, so it's gained a little bit of ground. It did fall off a little bit yesterday. Probably they were concerned about what was happening with that weather, but they're firing up and getting some loads moved over there. So not bad. Maine's actually in pretty good shape. 26 loads in to 39 loads out. Now, granted, there's probably some truck drivers stuck up there because there was about a 1 to 2 load to truck ratio all week. So it's not like it's great. But if you were stuck, you might be getting out of there today, which is good. You don't want to be stuck through the weekend. Michigan, 298 loads in to 598 loads out. We're also going to touch on Minnesota before I say anything. 226 loads in to 441 loads out. So, as I touched on yesterday, that northern part is flourishing later in the week, right? So, game plans for the future would certainly be in my notes, in my books, and places to watch would be getting up there, trying to book a load to get me up there Thursday, Friday, maybe even Wednesday, depending on what I wanted to do that weekend. But the Michigan, the Minnesota, and even Wisconsin, and even the Dakotas, oddly enough, have been really, really good for freight. So it's been impressive, and that's showing to still be true. So something to keep in mind. Missouri, 514 loads in to 303 out, not great. Minnesota, 202 loads in to 140 or Mississippi, excuse me, 202 loads in to 140 loads out. Below average, but I think that the weather affected all the freight down here in the dirty South. Montana has freight and actually has almost a 2-to-1 truck to load to truck ratio, 34 in to 67 out. So not bad. North Carolina, 789 loads in, 410 loads out. Terrible. North Dakota, 60 loads in, 176 loads out. That's impressive because it's been like this all week long, right? And since it's been like this all week long, truck drivers are not sitting up there. So they're not sitting up there. So this is a true load to truck ratio. North Dakota, if you're up there, negotiate. Tell them what what you want to run that load for, within reason, but still, like the ball is in your court up there. So when they tell you no, just hit them with the facts. Hit them with the facts that we go over, and I promise you, they're going to bump that rate. They have to get the loads moved. Nebraska, 135 loads in to 98 out. It's Nebraska, right? New Hampshire, 42 in to 30 out. Jersey, way down in freight. Even though despite a good ratio at 345 loads in to 638 out, just horrendous as far as the amount of freight that's going on over there. Whether or not you have negotiating power over there Honestly, I don't know. Considering that it's Jersey and there's a lot of freight that runs out of there and kind of that small area, that tight little area right there. Honestly, I don't know. But given how low or how few loads are actually posted, I would say no. Okay. New Mexico, 128 loads in to 54 loads out. Nevada, 203 loads in to 398 loads out. So Nevada still remains strong, which is fascinating to me. If I lived in Southern California, I'd be wearing out that lane. New York, 379 loads in to 726 loads out. That's down in volume, decent, decent ratio, but still down in volume as, just like Jersey. So yeah, I mean, you Northeasterners, you know what's going on, but I'd be cautious, right? Ohio, 821 loads in to 929 loads out. That's a little bit down on freight, but that seems to be pretty. It seems to be very high as far as loads in. So I would be careful there. I mean, it's a great spot, to get paid. You can make a 2-day run. Well, you got to bust it, but and depending on which part of Ohio you're coming from, but I mean, you got a 2-day run roughly back to Texas or Houston area. So decent for freight. Oklahoma just god awful shape, right? 383 loads into 101 out. Just rough, right? Oregon, Northwest, solid. 115 loads in, 399 loads out. Very impressive. The Northwest has made a real push this week, so enjoy the good paying freight up there. Pennsylvania, 810 loads in to 980 out. Kind of the same theme, down in volume, up in loads in. So the ratio is not great. All right. Rhode Island, 34 loads in to 26 out. South Carolina seems to be the state to have the best freight over there, but I mean, take that with a grain of salt because it's only 336 loads in to 347 out. So volume just kind of down all around. I'd be avoiding that area, that entire area at all costs, like the plague, right? South Dakota, 58 loads in to 58 loads out. About the worst that we've seen one of the Dakotas, maybe one or two other days, but not bad. So you might, if you are up in that north, actually, it's not even really gonna affect it all that much. About 50-50, which has slipped a little bit. Tennessee, 650 loads in, 53 loads in to 288 loads out. Volume is way down. A lot of trucks going in. Very poor state for freight. And given how much Arkansas has fallen off, that little area, that Memphis area, Little Rock area, is going to be not great this weekend. So just get you a load to get out of there, get rolling. You're not going to make all the money, unfortunately. Texas, 2,411 loads in to 1,773 loads out. Volume a little bit down. Loads in about, trucks headed this way essentially has just stayed the same. Not a good state for freight, unfortunately. I mean, you're not really going to get stuck if you book early, but at the same time, you're not going to make a killing either. Maybe unless you're running hazmat. Utah, 193 loads in to 134 out. That slipped a little bit. Virginia, 453 loads in to 440 loads out. It's made up a little ground. It's close to that 50% mark. So, Virginia's not, it's not terrible. It's not great by any means, but not terrible. There's not a ton of negotiating power there, but you might get in a decent paying load if you're watching that load board like a hawk. Vermont, 19 loads in to 40 loads out. That's interesting. Way above normal. Washington, 233 loads in to 483 loads out. So yeah, Northwest looking really, really good. Negotiate, get all the money up there, arm yourself with the right knowledge, talk to these brokers the proper way, talk to them like an educated truck driver, and you will get more money. Wisconsin, 455 loads in to 695 loads out. So also the same theme. The northern part of the United States is making really good money. So a really good lane would be from the northern part of the states running over to the northwest. You may not be able to bounce directly back because the loads might not be great coming out of the northwest. Sometimes they do pay though. But if you get over there and you don't see great loads, you may want to bounce down to Cali, all the way down though. Don't stop. Go all the way down to Southern Cali, and then you can take a good paying load back up. Yeah, sure. The fuel tax over there is way high, but at the same time, I forget. I just drew a blank. But anyway, the loads pay. The loads pay for the increase in fuel. So don't be afraid of that West Coast, even though fuel costs a lot more. Wisconsin, 455 loads in to 695 loads out. So West Virginia, 79 loads in to 90 loads out. That's down for West Virginia, but I mean, not the end of the world. Wyoming, 31 loads in to 64 loads out. So interesting. I am not actually going to go through these. If you're watching this on the replay, then, which I didn't tell them about the timestamp. I guess it's too late. These don't really change all that much throughout the week. So if you want, you can pause it. You can look at it. Obviously, you can't pause it live, but really unnecessary considering that I cover it every week or every day. Van average or national spot rate is up a penny, moving in the right direction. You know, maybe not that much, but hey, up is up, right? So it was $1.99 yesterday. It's up to $2. Flatbed, I think, has stayed the same. I don't remember, but 242. It's up a penny from August, and then reefer rates, I'm pretty sure are up. It's down a penny from last month, but I'm pretty sure that's up a penny or two at $2.40. And the national fuel price per gallon for diesel is $3.56. Good Lord. November can't get here fast enough, right? All right, so looking at this heat map, it's pretty barren out there, right? Pretty rough. Not a ton of freight. There are some areas that have picked up, but there are also a lot of areas that have fallen off. So if you're kind of keeping notes and positioning your truck the right way, you're probably up here in the northern part. Up here, maybe Dakotas. I mean, I don't recommend that you go to the Dakotas, but if a good paying load pops up, I would definitely head, I'd try to certainly head to the eastern part of North Dakota. But this is likely where I would be. I would be up here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, or North Dakota, maybe South Dakota, maybe. Iowa's fallen off, so I mean, I might have headed that way as well. But if I was headed to Iowa, I'd probably try to find something out of here because you're going to get better paying loads. I might have been headed to Michigan because Michigan has been solid as well. So at least the western portion of it. Chicago's fallen off. It's just, I don't know. I'm baffled by Chicago. Looking up here in the Northwest, you can see that not only is the Portland area above average, right, which it was yesterday, but the Seattle area is also above average. So it is moving in the right direction, and also a larger portion of Oregon is opened up with average, right? So certainly moving in the right direction for the Northwest, and given the amount of trucks that are up there, maybe that'll continue into next week. I'll be interested to see what it looks like on Monday. Moving down into Cali, of course, no surprise, all the freight's down here in the southern portion. And the San Francisco market still remains strong, which I find fascinating. Spreads far beyond, what is that, maybe an hour or two south of San Jose and all up here into wine country north of San Francisco. So there is some freight up there. But personally, the Los Angeles area is going to be your best bet. Looking at Texas, I mean, Texas is so tricky. Yeah, it's red, but you just don't get good paying freight out of here unless you've made really good relationships with brokers. And even then, I don't think they're just giving away profit, right? So this is one of those deceptive states. It's a shame. It shouldn't be that way, but it is what it is. And here's where I was talking about this Memphis area. Not only has the Arkansas part of that Arkansas area fallen off, kind of the rest of it, it has fallen off. So the Memphis area, even though it's showing to heat up, that's very deceptive because just not a great area. I mean, just basically the southern half of the eastern part of the country is just wrecked at the moment. Just not great. You need to be up north to make all the money, unfortunately, right now. We've already covered the northern part, so let's move on to the Midwest. Midwest, Indiana has now downgraded itself to being average, right? I still wouldn't be scared of Indiana at all because the load to truck ratio is still in okay shape, but at the moment, just showing average. But headed that way, still, like you're still gonna get some decent freight running out of there. And then I'm surprised Ohio wasn't downgraded to being average. It's still showing a little hot, But not great, and especially when you consider how rough of shape the Northeast is in, with the loads just being way down. I would be skeptical of being in Ohio and trying to negotiate hard and waiting for that right load. I would probably just book something to get me rolling and make sure I got all my miles for the week, running through the weekend. And then moving into the Northeast, the freight is, I mean, part of New Jersey's cooled off a little bit. The eastern half of Pennsylvania's cooled off a little bit. You still got some red there, kind of in that very northern tip of Jersey and stretching into what I think is New York over there, part of Pennsylvania. So, it's just, yeah, it's just down. So given what I said at the start of this, I don't know if necessarily that was accurate. That freight is up. I saw a few states whenever I was, kind of setting everything up this morning, and what it looked like was that freight was picking up, and it has in some areas. But that's why I do this, to educate you guys where the freight's at, so that way if you have negotiating power over there, if you know that you can ask for more money, or if you just have to eat it and call up that broker and just say, "Give me the damn load and I'll run it." It's one of those things. So, yeah, if you got some value out of it, please hit that like button. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's go. So my speed portion of the run through is over at the moment. It still is running long. It's running longer than I wanted to, right? Essentially, I need to figure out how to cram all that information that I get out into about a 10 to 15-minute video. It's going to be tough. All right. BD, at the end, can you check Greenville, South Carolina to Dallas, Texas on both ends? Pick up today or Monday, deliver Tuesday? I can. Yeah, I can look that up. I mean, the thing about that is that if you're picking up Monday, and especially out of a poor freight area, looking out this far ahead may not be great. But yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to give you, kind of what the spot rate looks like on that. It sucks that you're over there. But yeah, I'll certainly look that up here in a second. Work harder. Yeah, I went ketovore, 10,000 steps every day and dumbbell bodyweight workouts while over the road. I'm looking meaner than I was in high school, getting close to having a six pack. Man, right on, dude. That's awesome. Good for you. That's my goal. I talked about it a couple of times, wanting to get my six pack back, right? Because I miss it. But that's the goal, and it looks like carnivore is kind of the easiest way. I'm going carnivore, not necessarily ketovore. My wife is doing a little bit more. She's more the ketovore, right? So, by the way, if you're thinking about doing this, it's not just about just eating meat, right? There's a lot more involved with it. There's certain minerals that you need, certain steps that you need to take to set yourself up to do it properly, and there's even certain meats that you need to eat. You need to eat the high fatty meats. So don't just dive into that. Do some research, right, before you just start eating carnivore, right? Because it's yeah, you can actually wreck your health by doing it improperly. So I'm not going to say consult your doctor, but consult a specialist, because I'm not a specialist, right? 2024 is irritating. Being political with everything. Anyway, bunch of pansies. Sorry. Scott, good to see you back. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Good to see you back. Jack London, what do you think about market? I've got this heart over here on the chat, and I cannot see market something. Oh, market. What do you think about the market for the next few months? Well, I'll be honest. I'm just now getting back into this, and I'm not oblivious to van freight, but at the same time, I was a skateboarder for the last half of my career, and before that, I was a company driver hauling specialized reefer loads. So that being said, I'm not necessarily the absolute expert. Like I haven't been looking at the markets long enough to make what I would feel is an accurate or a solid prediction, one that I would feel super comfortable about. Um, that being said, I mean, it's not like I'm not a dummy, so I mean, I can certainly I can tell you my thoughts, but I would say take it with a grain of salt at the moment. Now, give me a few months of studying, of studying the markets, or maybe even a year, and then I will feel much, much better about a prediction. So, said all that, here comes the prediction. Um, I think that given that it's a presidential election year, I do think that we see an increase. Um, but, but I do think there's going to be some hesitation. And the reason I think there's going to be some hesitation in the markets, a little bit more than what would be normal for a presidential elect year, is that it's very uncertain which way this is going to go. I would like to think that it's going to be won by a landslide. And in my opinion, I think that it should be won by a landslide. But with the devious things that are going on, I'm not going to get into all of that, but we don't know. It's uncertain. I think that if it goes that way, I think that we could see a decline. I think it would be a slower decline. It's not going to just crash overnight, right? But I think that would be a slower decline. And I'm talking years. I'm not just talking months at the moment. I think it would be a slow decline, and I do think that we would eventually reach a crash. I know it's doom and gloom, but I think that it just is what it is. Now, if it goes the way that I want it to go, I think that we'll be in really good shape. I think that we will see an increase kind of across the board. You'll see a decrease in fuel prices. You'll see an increase, and it's not like, once again, it's not one of those things that's going to happen overnight, but it is one of those things that it's going to be in favor of the truck driver for the next 4 years, right? So it typically in a presidential elect year, it gets you always get the dip in September. It's just not a great month. But as we move into October and November, naturally, and even the first half of December, freight always starts to pick up. Now, despite the volume being lower, what happens is you've got a lot of truck drivers that start to run these package loads from UPS, FedEx, and now Amazon. And so you've got a lot of trucks that are taken not necessarily off the road, but they're pushed in a different direction. And they lock into contracts whenever they take these. So, they're on those for anywhere from a month to like as long as like 3, maybe even 4. I think some of them get super long. Yes, you see a decline in the volume, but it's almost like the ratio is almost the same because you've got a lot of trucks doing something a little bit different. So it's one of those things. It's typically not the easiest to make a ton of money in the next few months, but it's one of those things that if you position yourself properly, you can still make really good money, right? I heard so many different truck drivers, over the years, a lot of whining and complaining about this time of year, and then what seemed to be a lot of the older, the old hands, like, making good money, not complaining at all, like enjoying life and talking about, what they're making. So it's going to be one of those things. I honestly, I don't know. It could go either way. It could go down. I don't see it going up. I will say that I don't see it going up, and I think that that's because there's so much uncertainty. There's not a clear winner, so to speak, as far as what's going to happen, and the economy kind of weighs in the balance as far as which way, what happens here. I'm not trying to change anyone's political views. Whatever you want to vote for, whatever makes you happy, do that. What I highly recommend is for you to do your research. And that doesn't mean go watch ABC, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, or even Fox, right? These media companies are owned by one side of the party. So if you find yourself voting the one direction because of media, you're doing it wrong. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. The best thing that you can do is to actually do research, and there are a bunch of good journalists out there that are not necessarily journalists that work for all these large media companies. Um, if you do your own research, I promise you, there's only one way to vote, whether you like him or not. That's irrelevant. It doesn't matter, oh, we need somebody we can trust in there. You know who I trust? The freaking billionaire that's made billions of dollars. That's who's trustworthy as far as actually building an economy that can make money, because he's actually been there, right? Like, I don't know. Anyway, it's just I'm sorry to go down that road, but just do your own research and not these media conglomerates, please. They're just, if you're uneducated, if you, and I don't mean this in a bad way, not a derogatory way, but if you're uneducated, the debate the other night could have looked really bad. But if you are educated, then you would understand that it was 3 versus 1, and his performance was mediocre. I will say that, but it was 3-on-1, and he still held his own. And the other one is just preaching all this rah nonsense and brings nothing to the table. Right? If she actually had something to bring to the table, it would have been changed over the last 3.5 years. But she's literally done nothing. Nothing. And all these things that they give her credit for, right? Almost all of them are already in place. Don't be fooled. And this housing, bringing larger down payments for first-time home buyers, look at the requirements for that. They're off the charts. And that program's already in place. All she's doing is raising it by a little bit. Politics sucks. I hate it. Anyway, man, I went down that rabbit hole. Sorry, guys. What do you think of that? Or do you think it's better to focus on building relationships with agents? Yeah, I saw you actually. I clicked off the live stream and immediately I saw you had that question yesterday. 100% always start to build relationships with agents. That should take priority over everything. Everything. Because ultimately, your goal as an owner operator is to not be running the spot market. You always need to have access to the spot market, though, because you need that backup. Freight is never guaranteed. Even on a contract, it's not guaranteed. And you'll see that in the fine print. But, sorry, the number one goal is to build relationships with brokers, because you want to eventually get to the point where you have just a Rolodex of brokers that you can just flip through and call. Hey, I'm going to be in Ohio in 2 days. What do you got for me? And you just go down the list, and building those relationships, they will pay you more money, right? Like, do not make the mistake of thinking that the brokers are not making money. I promise you, they're still making money. These loads are still moving for the same amount that they always have, and if not more, because the costs have gone up for everybody. What we're not seeing is the increase in the pay to the truck drivers, which is disgusting, and it infuriates me. And if I have anything to do with it, I will change it. But yeah, always focus on trying to build the relationships with brokers. That's going to be your bread and butter. That's going to be your moneymaker. That's how you survive and thrive as an owner operator. And if you're a lease operator, or if you do have your own MC, or if you don't yet, excuse me, when you get your MC, it's going to make it so much easier for you at that point if you already have relationships built up, with brokers. And if you're just starting out, like, it's fine. But just understand, yeah, you're going to be running off load boards for like the first 6 months, probably even a year. There's requirements to run for some brokers, but build the relationships 100%. That is your focus above all. Any noteworthy hurricane freight aftermath? That I don't know. I wouldn't know how to do that. It is my understanding, right? This is just a guess. So it's my understanding, though, that a lot of the government contract freight, like the hurricane freight, stuff like that, goes to larger companies. I know way back, even when I was at FFE, that when like serious hurricane disasters happened, they were the ones that came in and moved. I'd say it, but corpses. Um, so and then generators. I can't remember who it was. Might have been Mercer. I don't remember, but the government contracts almost always go to the large corporations. You're not going to find a lot of that on the spot market. You may find one posted occasionally, and if you happen to get a broker on the phone, like and you're dealing with one of those, best thing you do is pick their brain because they know who has the freight and who doesn't. They know, which brokers have access to what you're talking about. Best thing you can do is ask around, you know, and 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 you guys, these brokers are nice, despite their job is to hold as much money as they can, but ultimately their number one job is to get that load moved. Your job is to make the most money. So yeah, it's contradictory, but at the same time, like they're still nice people. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them. So you can always fire up a conversation at some point. I mean, respect their time. Ask them, hey, are you busy? I've got a couple questions. I'm kind of new, but I'm trying to learn. They will appreciate the hell out of that. So that's your best knowledge that you can get is directly through those guys. So, okay, now let's go back and let's look at this lane for BD Greenville, South Carolina. Greenville, Bangville. All right. Greenville is it Dallas? Dallas. And you said 150-mile deadhead. Yeah. Pick up today, Monday, deliver Tuesday. Now, delivery is going to be something that I can't really look up because even though they put something on this load board, delivery a lot of times is negotiable. Sometimes it's not, but a lot of times it is. And you can say, "Hey, look, I'll be there early." Like, let's say you picked up a load today, and it happened to deliver Tuesday. You can always ask. You can ask if you can deliver it on Monday, or vice versa. Like, if you wanted to deliver it on Tuesday, she'd be like, "Hey, I got something. I've got some truck issues I need to take care of. It's not going to slow down my load, but like I've got a PM and some normal stuff to do, and I need to take care of all that on Monday. Is there any way I can deliver this load on Tuesday? Would the receiver be okay with that?" And they're going to let you know. So it's one of those things. The a lot of times, I mean, unless it's like a Walmart or something like that, but a lot of these times these deliveries are not necessarily or don't have appointments. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times you can talk with them. So the average lane rate on that is $1,612 at $1.73 a mile. That's rough. And then on top of that, with how bad a shape just that market is over there, probably not likely to find $1.73. And I mean, right off the rip, I'm seeing $1.30, $1.34, $1.34, $1.52, $1.44. Man, not the greatest, not the greatest of runs. Let's sort this by rate per mile, though. All right, so sorted by rate per mile. Number one on the board is $1.66. So I mean, it's not even at lane rate. And the bad part is you don't have negotiating power over there. Hey, look, there you go. That's exactly what you're asking for. Tuesday delivery. Uh, that's funny. I mean, given that there's a special comment, a special note about that, that probably is genuinely a Tuesday delivery. When is pickup? Today. Picks up today. I don't think, given the miles, 1,027, that you'd be able to pick that up today or pick that up Monday, deliver Tuesday. I mean, I guess you could, but it'd be a late delivery. And I mean, man, this is the only load I see that's even potentially worth running. So your very next load is paying $1,300. Kind of rough shape there, man. Good luck with that. I do wish you the best of luck. Let's look at this just to see because I'm just curious. For booking load contact, okay, they give a phone number. Commodities FAK. How would we know? What their codes are. Lights 34,500 pounds, but they've got it posted at $1,300. typical spot rate on this is 1483. Man, I'd probably go into begging mode at this point. If I called these guys up, I begged for it. This one's a hotter load because this one from Charlotte to Rowlett, I mean, it delivers Tuesday. You could always say, hey, look, this thing, I'm going to sit on this an extra day. Anyway, you can give me just even give me an extra $100, right? Extra $100 would make a difference. Let's see what that puts the rate per mile at. So if we got an extra 100, it'd be 1,800, and it's what, 1,000. I mean, it's gonna be somewhere in the mid $80s. Not even $1.75 a mile. So wow, it goes from $1.66 a mile to $1.75. I mean, nothing to shake a stick at, but at the same time, I'd probably go into beggar mode at that point if I found myself over there. Charlotte's probably decent bounce. What's the deadhead on that? 19. I mean, not bad. No, 102. 102. Yeah, that didn't sound right. 102. And I mean, Rowlett's just right outside of Dallas, so 19 miles outside of Dallas. That's pretty much your only option there, man. The only good one, anyway. I mean, sure, there's other freight, but you could risk it for the biscuit and try to book something Monday morning. But given the area that you're sitting in, I don't recommend it. All right, guys. Well, you know what? Actually, let's look at this. This is a good time to bring this up. It's not something that I've covered yet. I'm going to make a separate video about this. But so they've got this tri-haul option, right? And what this does is, so the average lane rate on this is 1612. Okay. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this thing uses the average spot rates for the different lanes. So these are not loads that you can book yet. But what this does is this takes two different lanes to get you to the destination that you're trying to get to and puts it together. And so what it's saying here is that on this average lane at the market or at the moment, so 1612 on this, it's saying that if you grab a load to a different market and then head back down, that you can make 33.53. You can more than double your money. And so what it's showing, and you can see the different cities that you run through. Okay, you can see the different mileage. Okay, so that what happens is this is the route through mileage. So the market that you're looking at to this destination here. Okay, and you look at these miles here on the left, and then the next set of mileages over here is from these cities to your destination. And this kind of gives you the route of how to make the money. And then on the far right side, it shows money for the city to your destination over here on the far right, and on the far left it shows you from where your origination to these cities. So you add these up, and then it gives you this number over here on the right at 33.53. So, and then as you go down this list, actually they're not in sequential order. I thought they were, but so you can look at these different things and you can play with the miles and see what you got. And then think back to, okay, well, when I was looking at where the freight's at, do any of these cities pop up? And West Virginia was slipping. Missouri was not great shape. Virginia was okay. So it looks like you could take a short hop up to Virginia. Like, I mean, yeah, $576 is not a huge paying load, but it's only 300 miles. And then you can grab a load down to Dallas for almost $2,200. So this is a really cool feature to give you an idea of what lanes do what. And, if you have to get to a specific destination, you can look at this. Now you got to do some research. You've got to actually go and look at these different cities and look to see what is actually posted, because this is just what this average lane pays. These are not loads that are posted. I just want to be supremely clear with that. But this gives you a really good idea. This one's not bad. Lexington down, but you're taking a risk going into Kentucky because it's a little below average at the moment. Missouri's hit or miss. I mean, given where it's located, there's usually a lot of freight that does head down to Texas. So might this might be an okay option actually. So I like this. I haven't. I'm going to highlight it in the future, do a video on it. But just wanted to show that while I had the opportunity. So, all right, guys, that's going to be. I didn't show the screen. Gosh dang it. Well, let me go back to this. If for those of you that are actually watching, dang it, I'm sorry. Well, like I said, I'm going to do a video on this in the future, so I'll pull this up. But here's the top tri-haul options. These are the cities that you route through. Here's the mileage to those cities. Here's the mileage to the destinations. Here's the money for both. And then over here on the right, it adds it all up for you nice and neat. You can flip through these to see. Sorry, I didn't show that. My bad. My bad. I'm a rookie streamer. Anyway, that's what you got. I'm going to do a video on that in the future. So it's irrelevant anyway. Thanks for putting up with me, guys. I'm trying to get all this figured out. I appreciate it. You guys stay safe. Enjoy your weekend, whether you're having it off or you're out there. At least the traffic will be down somewhat, and it'll be peaceful on the roads. I enjoyed running on the weekends. You guys keep that shiny side up, but as always, stay driven.